Many homeowners don't realize how closely estate planning and real estate homeownerships are connected. Your home is likely your largest asset, but what happens if the unexpected happens to you? Will your family inherit it smoothly? Will they be faced with probates, legal delays, and possibly higher property taxes?
Today we're talking to a trust and estate planning expert. If you're a homeowner, have children, plan to leave your real estate to your loved ones someday, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Share it with your friends and family because this information can save you thousands of dollars, tons of stress, and prevent family disputes.
I'm Isabel Macron.
And I'm Rosa Ortiz.
We're real estate professionals in Southern California.
And each week we break down what sellers and buyers you need to know right now.
This is Let's Talk SoCal Real Estate.
With us, we have Josie Chavez. Thank you for joining us. And you are an estate planner. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and the name of your company, and how long you've been doing it?
Yeah, of course. So thank you very much for having me. My name is Josie, and I am a mom of two kids. Been doing entrepreneurship for probably about 12 years. I decided to do estate planning about 2 years ago with the Financial Architects, which we are located in Chino Hills, and specifically Living Trust for the last 2 years.
Great. Many homeowners hear this recommendation often, but they don't really understand the benefits of creating a trust. Can you tell us why homeowners should consider placing their home in a living trust?
Yes, of course. So, and I agree with that with you. A lot of homeowners don't understand why they should protect their assets. And the main thing I tell my clients is that a living trust bypasses the probate process, and it allows your assets to go directly to your heirs without having to have a public court involved.
And that's the absolute main reason, which is good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we work hard for what we have, right? So we got to protect it and keep our assets and our legacy to our family. There's a couple of options. There's a revocable and then an irrevocable. So there's two different types, but the main living trust is a revocable living trust, which allows you to make changes at any time while you're still alive.
So what happens to a California home when an owner passes away without a trust?
Right. So in California, especially since California is considered a high market state as far as real estate is concerns, anything over $184,000 as far as an real property, it does go directly through probate. And probate is a public court supervised process, which is lengthy and expensive, and it's also public information. So that's what happens when a homeowner dies without a trust.
So besides going through probate, I think you had mentioned their assets get frozen as well.
Correct. Right. So the state automatically freezes their assets, and the judge has to provide a court-appointed family member, and that could take a while. And it's a lot of unnecessary stress for the family.
Also, one of the biggest misconceptions people have is that if they put their property in a trust, that they lose control. For example, if they want to refinance, sell, or make any changes, how does that actually work?
Right. So that's actually a really good question because I do get that question a lot. So when you have your assets or your home in a living trust, you are still in full control. So then the reason we call it a revocable living trust is because you can make any changes that you want to the trust, and you can sell your home without a problem. You can buy assets, you can sell assets, which of course includes your home. And it's just a matter of getting the right realtor like yourselves, right, to go through the whole listing process.
Setting up correctly, like coordinating with the trust or with the paperwork.
Yeah, and it's a simple procedure. It's all you do is remove the property off of the trust back into your name, you sell your house, and that's it. Just to go back to the original question, Isabel. So the original question is based off of, let's just say someone still being alive, right? They think that they don't have control over their property, which they do. So let's just say I have a trust and I want to sell my home, but I'm still alive, then yes, at that point, the process would be just to remove the home out of the trust so the sale of my home could go smoothly. If I'm already passed away, then that's a different process. I just wanted to kind of clear that up. But it's still doable. It's just a different process.
It's a pretty smooth transaction, but when you say remove out of I think that's where Isabel was a little probably confused. Like remove it, that's something that escrow does. The homeowner doesn't do it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So escrow will do that. But a key point, and once you do go back into a new property, then you probably have to reinstate the trust for the new property.
Oh, definitely. Yes. That's one of the most important things of a trust, is to make sure that you fund it with all of your assets. And of course, your real estate being one of the main ones.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, that people forget that when they do a transaction or they sell or refinance, they forget to reinstate it.
And I actually do tell my clients, and it's a good way to follow up with them, is just to contact me if they have any changes. Like if they do sell their home, to call me and let me know. That way I can remind them to put their new one in, because that's easily forgotten without a professional reminding you to do that.
That is so true.
I would think most people prefer the revocable. Who goes with the irrevocable trust?
No one that I've ever worked with has gotten an irrevocable, but I would say someone that maybe doesn't have a lot of family, right, where they wouldn't need to make any changes as far as adding beneficiaries or adding heirs, and they just kind of want to set it and forget it kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would imagine those would be the type of clients that would get an irrevocable.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
How does a trust protect a family when the homeowner becomes incapacitated?
Yeah, so all living trusts that I provide do come with complimentary power of attorney and health directive documentation as part of the trust. So that basically allows your successor, your person of choice that you have chosen to be in charge of your trust, to step in and manage your assets, including your home, and of course, manage your finances, right? So that you don't get behind on your mortgage payments or any other monthly payments that you may have. And it just protects the court from getting involved, right? Because if someone becomes incapacitated, and let's just say you have a family of 4 siblings, then we know that conflict could arise when something like that happens. And if there's not an agreement between the family of who's going to be in charge or given that power, then it's going to have to go through court. And so a living trust prevents all of that conflict, and it secures your wealth, basically, and your assets.
And the siblings from fighting.
Yes.
Keeping the peace.
So that's actually really, yeah, I mean, it's true. A lot of families don't want to discuss that because it can get a little tense, but it's very important to have everything set so that that doesn't happen. Because we all know it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard horror stories, and on top of there being grief because somebody's sick or somebody passed away, now there's conflict because these things weren't set up.
That's absolutely right.
So, Josie, many California families are concerned about property tax increases. What should homeowners know before transferring property to their children?
The transfer of a family home between parents and or grandparents to the children without causing a change in ownership for tax purposes. So it basically allows whoever inherits the home to enjoy that low tax that the parent or grandparent was originally assessed for as far as value is concerned for the home. So they don't get reassessed for tax purposes, which is very helpful.
Okay. That's very educational. I think Proposition 19, we hear of it a lot, but sometimes it's not defined in an easy way. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. No problem.
What mistakes do you see families making when they leave real estate to their children or their heirs?
Yeah, and I actually do still see this quite often when I get a client that maybe already has a trust, but it's been 15, 20 years. And the first very common mistake is that I see is, of course, not having a clear estate plan, right? Some clients only have a will, which is only like a general guide that you still need to go to probate. So that's number one, not having a clear estate plan. I would say the next one is not properly funding their trust. Some of my clients have a trust, but they never funded it. They never added assets into it. So it makes it have no value.
What do you mean by funding the trust?
So a lot of clients or a lot of people will create a living trust, but they forget to add their home, like change the deed, right, from them to the trust. And if you don't do that, then you don't fund the trust.
Oh, I thought that as you create the trust, that's part of the process.
It is. But some estate planners don't offer the deed transfer and they don't communicate that with their clients. And so then the client doesn't know that they have to add stuff to the fund. I just had a client last week that had a trust that never put their house in the trust after 12 years. And so it could happen.
Again, this is super, super important to listen to because I didn't know that could happen, that you could create a trust and that estate planner never put the house in there because it wasn't part of his or her services.
Right. Yeah.
Or to communicate that that was part 2 that you need to do.
That's an eye-opener, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really great to know.
How does a trust explain how it simplifies the transfer of property when someone passes away?
It's automatic. So it just basically means that there's nothing really that you have to do besides follow what that trust says. And the successor that you chose to be in charge of that trust has basically a roadmap of what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And that's it. Nobody gets involved. No courts get involved. It's all private.
Ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
So for someone who owns rental properties or multiple properties, are there additional planning strategies that they should consider?
So whether an investor or a regular homeowner, it's very, very important that you have everything in your trust, especially, I guess, if you are an investor because you have multiple properties, right, that you need to protect. So if something were to happen to you without a trust, now you have all these properties that you have no protection on going to the state of California and just holding up the family, right?
Is it the same process?
It's the same process. Yeah. When I go in there and have my initial consultation with you, that's one of the first questions I ask is, how many properties do you need protection on? Because that's just going to determine the complexity of the trust itself. And
why do you think people hesitate, or I don't know, is it a fear? What is the reason they wouldn't do a trust? So something so important that protects the family.
The number one reason that I would say, without a doubt, is they don't want to invest the money. And because a trust is not something that you can get for $100, right? It's an investment, and they just see it as an additional cost, maybe, even though it's a one-time cost. And they're scared to spend that money on something. And I think that's my opinion, because I have a lot of potential clients that have expressed that to me. And then I think the next one would just be emotionally, they don't want to go through that whole process of having to choose one person or maybe even two to be in charge of their trust, because it gets emotional when you have to start choosing which sibling or which family member gets to be in charge of the rest of your
And it is planning. You're planning for when you're no longer here. So nobody wants to think or plan that in when I'm not here.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
It's one of the things that, it's probably easier to say, but we really have to put our feelings aside and just think of what is the purpose of this and how it's going to keep the family together, keep the family at peace. And this is what the person wanted, and nobody fights, and it avoids so many issues.
And for me personally, my parents, common folks, not at a certain income level, where they think when you hear the word estate, you think millions. I don't fall in that category. I don't have an estate.
I don't need it.
I don't need it. But owning just one home, that is your estate. No matter what your income level, a trust is important either for yourself or for your children or who you're passing it on to.
And even if it's not a home, it could be a bank account. It could be anything
Personal
of
items.
value, even jewelry. Yes. It doesn't necessarily just have to be a home. Just protect your assets.
Yes.
And all that can go in the trust.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So
Every little thing.
Every little
Even
thing.
if you say, I want my hat to go in there. Yeah. It's like it could be something minor but valuable to you, and you want to pass it on. You don't want your kids to fight over it.
yeah, and that's a perfect example for someone that doesn't own a home, like you said, your parents. The same thing with my parents. My parents have been living with me for 5 years, so they don't own a home anymore, but they have 3 children and they have personal items. And so I had to really convince them to get their living trust in order because they said, I don't need one. We don't have any money. And I said, it's fine. It's not about the money, but it's also about your health. We need to know who you want in charge of your health if and when something happens to
If
you.
anything, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the power of attorney and, someone who's you trust that's going to make the right decision for your health.
And then can you explain the difference from a will and a trust? And they both go hand in hand, but they're two different things, correct?
I honestly, I think of it, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think of it as a letter. Like you wrote a letter of what your wishes are.
It's not a bad analogy because it could be like you said, a letter. It just guides a judge.
The reason I said a letter, because I've heard that a person was dying and that they wrote their will on a napkin.
It is.
But that's a will?
That's a will, but you're still going to have to go to court
And argue it?
and argue it, present it to a judge, and then the judge is still going to decide who's going to be the executor to execute that will that was in the napkin or whatever that napkin said. So you still have to go through probate, but it's potentially a shorter process because you do have something in writing.
Okay.
So a will is a basic guide to guide the courts, the public courts and a judge on, first of all, to legalize the document that you left. And at that point, it allows the judge to decide who's going to be in charge of your last wishes, right? A trust is a complete playbook. Let's think of it as of what exactly you want it to be done. It does not go to court and it does not become a public record. It is completely private. No one has access to know who you left what to who or how much of it or anything like that. It's just a complete private legal document that allows your final wishes to be executed.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we get a copy of that, the wishes or the trust, you recommend the person to just put it in a safe place.
Well, I have mine in my closet, but because it's a binder, right? You get a big book, but of course we keep electronic copies of everything, and we do recommend that you take copies of just the major documents and hand them out to your family individually, just so that everyone has records of the trust. But yeah, I should definitely be in a safety box somewhere, maybe something that's fireproof. You never know.
A trust came in handy when both my parents passed away separately, separate years. And just to also have the power of attorney that's attached to those that allow you to speak on behalf of your parents, whether they're able to speak or not able to speak. And then after their pass, to be able to contact their creditors and be able just to contact the world and unfortunately have to notify them of the death. But having that power of attorney, having that trust is super important. super important to anyone who has property and parents or aging parents. It's definitely something that needs to be talked about, discussed, and schedule it for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
What do you recommend as far as how often someone should review their trust, or should they review it, for after a certain amount of years, or only when they're going to sell, refinance, or do anything with their assets?
Great question. Because like I stated earlier, a lot of people do make that mistake of not updating their trust. So we all know that life happens, right? And things can change. Divorces can happen, new marriages, new grandchildren, new children. So I always recommend clients to try to go in there annually and just kind of review it and see if there's anything that needs to be changed, but maximum 5 years.
Okay,
5 years.
Preferably annually.
Yeah, especially if those, family changes are happening, like new kids, new grandkids.
If someone owns a home today and has never spoken to an estate planner, what are the first 3 steps they should take in setting up their trust?
I have to disclose, of course, I am not an attorney. I am a third-party agent. An attorney is the one who executes, approves, and stamps your living trust with their license number. For somebody that has never spoken to an estate planner like myself, I would say, make a list of everything that you own would be the number one thing. A lot of people don't realize how much in assets they actually have. Right? They have to consider their life insurance, their 401k, their accounts, their home, anything of value. So that'd be the first thing I would recommend someone to do, because it also helps your estate planner to understand what you're going to need and to give you the proper
And
service.
guide you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 2, I would say, think of who you are going to choose as your successor, as the person that's going to be in charge of your trust when you pass away. That's a really important choice. You can choose multiple people, but you still have to make those choices, right? And you want to think of who is going to receive your assets, whether it be your children, your siblings, your grandchildren, cousins, family friend. You have to really think about who's going to receive those assets so that you are prepared to talk to an estate planner like myself.
I mean, sounds like a little bit of an overwhelming process, but something that's a must.
Yeah, or if you don't even know where to begin, just make that contact you, and you'll ask, I'm sure you have a questionnaire with those questions where it can help start the process before speaking to an attorney.
Oh, yes.
Josie, is there a free consultation, or how much is your consultation?
Yes, so I do offer free consultations, whether it be over the phone or in person. They take about half an hour to an hour, depending on the complexity of the trust. And that's where we go over and discuss pricing.
Can you give us a price range of a very basic, simple trust with they own their home and have a savings account? And then give us a price range of somebody who has various homes and assets.
Yes, absolutely. So the range that I use is anywhere between $2,295 all the way up to $3,495. Very rarely do I exceed the $3,495. Those are more complex trusts, but that would be my price range that I work with.
Okay, thank you.
So you have a living trust. The person passes away. The executor, the successor, what is their next step?
Their next step is to grab that binder of the living trust that was left. And that living trust has steps on what to do next. And of course, after that, the next step would be to contact myself as the agent so that I can guide them, because my information's on there as well. They can contact the attorney that actually prepared and approved the trust. So those would be like the first 3 steps that they would take.
Is part of your service recording the trust with the county or the new deed?
So the deed and the notaries, I do include that as in part of my price if you're local. I do have clients that are pretty far out. And so for those clients, they do usually tend to get their own notary. As far as recording, no, that's the only thing that's not included in my trust. You do have to go to your county to record your deed and pay whatever that fee is to record the deed.
I'm sure you emphasize how important that is because I know a lot of people forget that part.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the deed transfer, I take care of that for you. I make sure that it's all notarized. And that's the last thing a client has to do is record. And that's probably the hardest part is to get them to go to the county's office and get it recorded because who wants to go over there?
I mean, they could always mail it certified mail, right?
They do have a process if you can't make it in person every county's different, but
okay.
Yeah.
It's safer to go in person, but just in case they can't for some reason, they can always call the county and find out if they can mail it certified mail. I think you've answered a lot of super important questions, and thank you for being on our podcast today. How can people reach you? And I believe you also speak Spanish, so you can also help our Spanish-speaking listeners.
Yeah, I do. So thank you again for having me. I had an amazing time, and I love sharing my knowledge when it comes to estate planning and just the power of getting something like this in place. So thank you again for having me. And anyone can reach me. My email, it's Josie, J-O-S as in Sam, I-E, .Chavez, 6 at yahoo.com. Send me an email, and I usually get back to people within 24 hours.
I think you said you do some educational videos on Instagram. Is that right?
I do. Yes. Thank you for the reminder. So I do have a business Instagram for my estate planning, which is at Let's Grow 98. That's my Instagram. So there's a lot of fun videos on there, not only estate planning, but if you like to work out, you can follow me for some of that too.
I love that.
Again, it was fun.
Is there something that we left out or anything that you feel that we should have discussed or something that you recommend?
The biggest recommendation I have for everyone would just be to take that step, a living trust, make that investment for you and your family. And you'll feel much better about having everything under control.
Truly peace of mind.
Yeah. One you won't regret.
Thanks for listening. Let's talk SoCal real estate.
If this episode helped you, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share. And tune in for new episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're thinking of buying or selling in Southern California,
click the link in the show notes for your free buyer's guide. If you have any questions, email us. We'd love to answer them all.
Isabel Macron and Rosa Ortiz are licensed real estate agents with Keller Williams College Park. Each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated.
the information shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and reflects our personal opinions and experiences. It should not be considered legal or financial advice.
We make no guarantees regarding accuracy, timelines, or results. We always recommend consulting with licensed professionals and doing your own research before making any real estate decisions.